Chris Paul is headed to the Rockets, joining Eric Gordon, Clint Capella, Trevor Ariza, but we don't care much about that. What everyone's interested in is the fact that he's now teamed up with James Harden. We are in a time where there are so many great point guards in the league. Even with names like Westbrook and Curry in that category, it's still safe to say that Chris Paul and James Harden are two of the best. It seems like an odd addition at first glance, since the Rockets had the point guard position covered while all the other spots could use a little work, but I'm not doubting the Rockets' decision. I'm excited to see how it's going to work, and if they can make it work, this could mean big things for the team. I say this because I believe in James Harden and Chris Paul, but I want to talk about James Harden. He's one of those players that just keeps getting better. He was drafted 3rd overall in 2009 by the Thunder, and it's hard to argue that he had a little bit of a slow start. He was a rookie and came off the bench, so we can't be too hard on him, but he did average less than 10 points and 2 assists a game. But that just leaves room for improvement. He spent 3 years on the team. In his final year, he averaged nearly 17 points and near 4 assists and rebounds, still coming off the bench by the way. In fact, he was the best bench player in the league that year. I know this because he was the 6th man of the year. Though he wasn't a starter, you wouldn't be able to tell by looking at his stats. He averaged more minutes and more points than 3 of the starters on his team. The 2 starters that were above him were Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. Another thing that we should note about this season is that there was once a team that consisted of Harden, Durant, and Westbrook. Today, arguably 3 of the top 5 players in the league, and certainly 3 of the top 10. Of course, today they're all on different teams, but if they were still together, that would be my pick for the championship. I wouldn't even bother looking at the other teams. Just think of the fact that all 3 of them were nowhere near the skill level they're at today, yet were still able to make it to the finals in 2012. They shut out the defending champion Dallas Mavericks in the first round, beat the champions from 2 years ago in 5 games in the second round, the Lakers, and beat the would-be champion San Antonio Spurs in the third round. In that playoff run, they played the champions of 6 of the surrounding years. They were met by LeBron James and the Heat in the finals, but they were too much. Nevertheless, it was a great effort that should be remembered. That final series against the Heat in the finals were James Harden's last games on the Thunder because he was traded to the Rockets, where he would begin the next chapter of his career. So Harden spent 3 years on the Thunder improving and becoming more important to the team. He went from a rookie that wasn't putting up great numbers, even for a rookie, to winning the 6th Man of the Year award and putting up numbers that most starters would be happy with. But the amazing thing is that it wasn't until he was on the Rockets where he displayed the true improvement. Here's the stats for his last year on the Thunder compared to his first year on the Rockets. I realized that he became a starter, but the minutes increase isn't as significant as you might expect. It was only an additional 7 minutes on the floor. With just an additional 7 minutes, he raised his scoring by 9 points, rebounds by almost 1, and assists by over 2 per game. And this was also his first year as an All-Star, his first of 5 selections and running. So let's review at this point. He started as a forgettable rookie. In a short 3 years rose to 6th Man of the Year, and it took only 1 more year for him to become the leader of the team and an All-Star. And through his 5 years on the Rockets, he just got better and better. Now let's jump to the season ending 2016, not last season but the one before it. Here's those numbers compared to his first year on the Rockets, averaging about the same minutes, even slightly less, but increasing his points by 3, assists by 1.7, and rebounds by more than 1. It was a fairly steady increase each year to arrive at this significant increase when comparing the 4-year difference. The last 2 years I want to compare are that 2016 season compared to the most recent 2017 season. He averaged 1.5 fewer minutes, but increased his points a tiny bit, rebounds by 2, and here's the big one, he increased his assists by 3.7, putting him at 11.2 per game, more than anyone else in the entire league that year. And his 29.1 points was second only to Russell Westbrook. Westbrook had a historic season and certainly deserves the MVP. But Harden was close. It wasn't exactly a runaway for Westbrook. It was a race between the two. I think most people thought it would be Westbrook, but they weren't quite sure until they read that name. Harden came close to winning it, and it took nothing short of averaging a triple-double to beat him. If Westbrook hadn't averaged a triple-double, I would have chosen Harden for MVP. If even one of those numbers came up 9.9, things would have been different, because, well, that's not even that far from Harden's numbers at that point. Harden was very close on points and assists, and the only number Russell really beat him in was rebounds, which was still comparable. And the fact that Harden's numbers led to more success for his team just seals it. I mean, he beat Westbrook in the playoffs. So no MVP for Harden, but he did have an MVP level season, and my guess is that he will have an MVP before it's all over. I can point to two reasons Harden experienced such an increase between this season and the last. One is that, similar to Westbrook, he had a key player leave on his team and was forced to take on a bigger role. Now Harden's is a much smaller scale than Westbrook, but certainly enough to have an impact. The second reason is that he moved to point guard this season, after 7 years of being a shooting guard, which would perfectly explain such an increase in assists. Point guards get assists, it's the nature of the position. So when you have someone that averages 7.5 a game already, moving them to point guard is a good recipe for double-digit assists. It reminds me very much of what happened to a player named Magic Johnson. He was the king of assists, so he averaged double digits as a shooting guard already, but when he was moved to point, he shot up to above 13, and kept his average high every future year. After watching Harden over the past season, it just seems like he's absolutely killing it in that point guard position, which is why I'm so nervous about the team adding another all-star point guard, but we'll have to wait and see how that all turns out. The key word of this video is improvement. I watch the games and look at his stats, and on both counts, it's just undeniable. It's almost whatever category you look in. Points, 7 of the 8 years were better than the last. Assists, every year was better than the last. Rebounds, 6 of the 8 years were better than the last. Field goal percentage went down when he joined the Rockets, which makes sense. Bigger role on the team, more attempts. On average, the shots are a little harder. But free throw percentage went up along with attempts when he joined the Rockets. Fluctuations while on the team, but his makes, attempts, and percentage are higher every year on the Rockets when compared to his days in OKC. In the most recent season, his role was probably too big, but he rose to the occasion anyway. Started as a forgettable player, quickly rose to 6th man of the year, then to leader of a team and an all-star, and now finally near MVP. And unless there's some funny business happening with that point guard position, I expect Harden to win the MVP sometime soon and experience at least some success in the playoffs. Individual success hasn't translated very well into success for the team. He was in the finals that one year with OKC, but hasn't returned since. And that's basically what Chris Paul is coming there for. As I tend to say in most of my videos now, a championship looks unlikely for any team that's not from Golden State, but the Chris Paul move makes the Rockets look very promising. And unless there's some funny business happening with that point guard position, I expect Harden to win the MVP sometime soon and experience at least some success in the playoffs. Let me know in the comments what you think of James Harden's general improvement over these years, and let me know what you think of Chris Paul joining the team. Is it going to bring down Harden's individual performance, but help the team? That's the safe guess, but tell me if you think something different. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you for watching. If you like this video and want to see more in a similar style, be sure to subscribe by clicking the logo so you know when I upload a new one.